Hello, everyone, and welcome to BodyBags. I'll be your reviewer today. I'm Lonnie from Tats, and yeah, we're doing a fun little theme week this week. It's he said, she said, where basically what we're doing is critiquing we're critiquing the video of a previous BodyBag member, and they reviewed a movie, and then we're gonna critique their review, and then at the same time, put our spin on it and talk about what we whether we liked the movie or we hated the movie, and what we agree with this person or we don't agree with this person or whatever else. And so yeah, this is kind of fitting because I think you can see here on the couch here. Yeah, I think you kind of know. All right, well, you already know about the title anyway. You already know which one I'm doing today. So yeah, from 1980, I'm going to be reviewing finally. After all this time on Body Bags, I finally get to talk about one of my absolute favorite movies ever made, and that is The Shining. You mean Shining? You want to get sued? Anyway, now talking about Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and this is a really, you know, man, I love this movie so much. What can I say about this movie that hasn't already been said? It's a great film. That's the thing, I know that if you guys remember, a while back I did review the miniseries remake of The Shining, which I do like. I do like. It has its good moments and everything, and plus it's got Rebecca De Mornay in it, who is like one of my absolute biggest hotsy totsies while I was growing up and stuff. I was like watching her in movies like Risky Business and God Created Woman and stuff like that. Yeah, she was definitely a favorite of mine growing up. But anyway, so we're not talking about that. We're talking about this one here from 1980. Really, what can I say about this movie? This movie has been talked about so much. What am I going to say about it that hasn't really been said? And one of the things I like about it is that I don't really have to say that much because this this review is more about the previous review. The review was done by the Fright Chick in week 29 of Body Bags, so that's quite a ways back. And after watching her review, well, I'll get to the review and her review in just a minute, and but here we go. Just quick, blase through the movie and stuff. I mean, we already know what the movie is. Stanley Kubrick co-wrote and directed it. The movie's based off the book by Stephen King. Stars Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Danny Lloyd, Scatman Crothers, Joe Turkel, all this, Barry Nelson, all this stuff. And the story is about Jack Torrance. He's this troubled writer who's, getting over his alcohol addiction or trying to get over his alcohol addiction. And, he goes with his wife, Wendy, played by Shelley Duvall, so we remember from, Popeye and one thing I definitely remember is like, unfortunately it's no longer available. I tried looking it up. I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, she used to have a TV show on Showtime called Fairy Tale Theater, which like now that was her brainchild, that was kind of like her whole thing. I think she wrote a number of the episodes. She was definitely the producer on. She starred in a number of the episodes and stuff like that. Man, they had all different kinds of stories on there. They had like, I think Tim Burton. That was like one of the first things he directed. I think he directed an episode. I want to say I think he directed the Pinocchio episode that had Paul Rubens playing, Pee Wee Herman playing Pinocchio and stuff. You had so many big name, talent on there. Malcolm McDowell, Mary Steenburgen, Jeff Goldblum, Valerie Perry, Billy Crystal, Robin Williams, on and on and on. I mean, you had like the whole who's who of Hollywood was in that show. So she was pretty big on that. Then you got Scatman Crothers. How could you not love that man? He was so good. And it is. It's like I don't think I'm really giving much away, but it's like yeah, he doesn't come to a very good end at the end of this movie, and I think it really that's definitely a part of the movie. If you're like, well, if you didn't think it was a horror movie then, you definitely think it is now. But anyway, so they go to the hotel, and they're staying there for the winter, and the thing, the biggest difference between King's now there are a lot of differences that Kubrick made from King's book, which I think really annoyed a lot of people because one thing I think I've said this before. One thing I think if you look at it, it's really interesting how when Kubrick adapted this book, there's not that much. There are some parts of the book in it, but yeah, he really does stray away from the from a lot of the elements of the book and just kind of morphed it into his own movie and stuff. But then you watch like Clockwork Orange, and that movie actually follows the book pretty close. As a matter of fact, I think I remember reading that they said that like with Clockwork Orange, that Kubrick didn't really work on a script that much. Mostly, he just like would say, okay, this is the part of the book we're doing, and that's kind of how he did the movie. So I don't know if that's true or not. That's the fun part though. Is like after Kubrick passed away. Well, it's not fun that Kubrick passed away, obviously, but after Kubrick passed away, like for decades now, we've been, everybody's got all these theories and stuff like that, and everybody's been talking about him, talking about his movies, and the meaning and all this other kind of stuff that he puts into his films and everything, and we'll get into that in just a minute, but yeah, so he kind of tried to take King's book and which King it's very very clear in the King novel and in the mini series that was redone. It was done, it was a ghost story. The story was about a haunted hotel, okay, and then when Kubrick did it, he tried to do something that was more of a psychological horror film and something that was more steeped in reality and if there's anything that's kind of gleamed as supernatural or whatever else, it could be they tried to explain it away as just it could be something going on in one of the characters' heads or something like that, and that would make it infinitely more scary. And the idea is really they're more that the hotel isn't really haunted per se. It's just they're being they're just kind of going insane from cabin fever, being stuck in the hotel for all this time and stuff. So they tried to do that and everything, and but one thing I think is really fun, and I love this movie, and I'll be honest with you, it's this movie I remember it was probably one of the very honestly I want to say I think this is one of the very first uh, kind of like movies I think I've ever really seen. Like you know, this just feels like and I remember watching it back on television. When they had like everything was, pretty much trimmed out of it and stuff like that. But I still got to see it, and I just remember being so enamored with this movie. Just I love the. It's so well done. It's so beautiful to look at. Even in its grotesque moments, it's beautiful to look at. I just love everything about this movie. And I know that Stephen King hates this movie and everything, but I've always said this movie to me I feel is a blessing because of this movie, it turned me into an instant Stephen King fan. And it's just like, wow, this guy wrote the book and everything, and I just wanted to read every book of King's I could get my hand on, and I've read a number of his books, and I'm falling short on a couple of them. There are some I got a handful I need to catch up on, but through the years I've read his books or at least listened to him on audiobook and stuff like that, and I can understand the King's not really thrilled about this, but I can't hate this movie, and just it turned me into a lifelong Stephen King fan, and I'm grateful for that. I'm happy to be a fan of his. I'm happy to have dipped into reading his books and everything else, and I do admit there are some things like I know there's some things I could kind of nitpick here. It's like, yeah, I know, like in a way. I know in a way it's like in this movie, it is more menacing seeing Jack Nicholson. I get it. I know it's like he just comes off as crazy from the get go. Where the thing was the story is really supposed to be about a decently good man who slowly, excuse me, who slowly loses his mind and becomes insane and turns evil and things like this. I get that part, but but and one thing I think was kind of cool is like and I mean yeah I know in this Kubrick kind of went for a more conventional kind of horror trope and I do admit yeah like Jack Nicholson with the axe is it does look more intimidating and more threatening than Steven Weber did in the miniseries with the large croquet mallet, but at the same time too I gotta give I mean, I really got to give Stephen King credit for the idea of trying to take something like a croquet mallet and try to make it really scary and make it really like, horrifying and everything and try to, like almost make it like, almost make it like almost like something that could be like, like a machete or a chainsaw or something, something that almost could have been, like a really interesting murder weapon that could have been used in, other horror films and stuff like that. So I give, Keaton credit for trying to come up with an interesting way of the killer trying to attack his victims and things like this. I get it. But, oh yeah. But yeah, and I do get I understand, like, yeah, the whole, I know a lot of people really were not happy with, the way that Wendy, even though Wendy in the book was kind of written to be more of a progressive, kind of outspoken woman and everything. In this, Kubrick really went in the other direction, and she's very mousy and everything, and she just barely gets out alive and all that kind of stuff. I understand people are upset by that. But one thing I think is fun is so I mean, yeah, I mean, I can't really say too much about this movie that has already been said. And I love this movie, and it turned me into a lifelong Stephen King fan. It turned me into a Kubrick fan, and I'm happy for both of those things. And I'm not sorry about it, and I still love this movie to this day. It's one of these kind of movies. If it's on, I'm put into a trance. I'm hypnotized, and I can't help but just stop and watch it. You know. So that's pretty much talking enough about the movie. So I mean, yeah, there's not really much else I can say about it. It's just I love it. I love it. I think it's a great movie. But a couple of things I did want to mention is, like, okay, number one thing I think is a lot of fun. I don't agree with a lot of it, but one thing that actually is fun, and I think if Kubrick was alive today, he really would be having a ball when he's, like, if he could get on YouTube now and look at all these videos. Everybody's got all these theories and everything, and people doing all these videos talking about what they think, The Shining means, what they think Kubrick was trying to say with the movie and stuff like that. Like I don't agree with it, but one video I was like, it's actually pretty entertaining. I don't agree with it, but that one video, the Wendy theory, it's like I don't agree with it, but watching is like, it is actually an entertaining take on it, stuff, and just some of the ideas, like people can get creative when they start trying to, like conspiracy theory about a movie and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, it's like, because of this, Kubrick was so detailed that I think he meant this, or I think he was trying to say that, or whatever else. But it's like, really, it's like, come on, dude. Okay, first of all, this was a movie. Kubrick took well over a year to shoot this movie. So it's like, it's not going to be surprised that you're taking over a year to shoot a movie. And that would be the thing, you hear, like, there were times like he would shoot a scene all the way through, and there were times he thought he was done with the scene, but then he would want to turn around and go back and redo it again, go redo some shots again and all that stuff. So it's like the movie really does have a ton of continuity gaps. And it's like, I don't think it's like Kubrick is personal. This is just my personal opinion, my personal conspiracy theory. I don't think so much that it was Kubrick really planned some of this stuff. I think just, when you're working on a movie for that long, and you're doing so many takes as Kubrick did, and just so much stuff, and you got to remember, too, like um like at one point, the set burned down, the set for the lodge, where Jack Nicholson was doing his typing and stuff like that, that set burned down. And then they had to close everything, and then they had to rebuild it and all that kind of stuff. And they had, like, what was it, Warren Beatty, I think it was trying, like, you had people who were backed up because they reserved that studio, but they had to wait for Kubrick to get done with it. And, like, you had Steven Spielberg, he was waiting to move in to do Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then I think it was Warren Beatty was, going in to do Reds and all that kind of stuff, And if there is I think it's on here. I believe it's on here. It's the interview with Steven Spielberg where he talks about when he first met Kubrick, and they were talking about The Shining and stuff. But I think a lot of it is just really, yeah, I don't think it was so much Kubrick was trying to say stuff. I think there was just a lot of continuity errors. And when you have a set burned down, you're talking about a movie that took over a year to film and stuff like that. Yeah, I think you're going to have, you're just going to have a lot of continuity issues. And one thing I think is funny is, like, like on here, even the woman, Diane Johnson, who co-wrote the screenplay with Kubrick, she even told him, like the part where Jack is let out of the pantry locker by Grady and all that stuff. They said, just she's like, pretty much she just said, yeah, we didn't really have a choice. We wrote ourselves into a corner, and so that was just kind of it. We just had to, as she put it, we had to abide by some inconsistencies. So it's like, that was kind of funny, but it's like people are sitting there, they have all these years, even though The woman who helped Kubrick write the script explained it, but no, 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 there's something behind this. I know there is, and all that stuff. But it's kind of funny. Okay, so I talked enough about the movie and the conspiracy theories and stuff that I think is fun. It's just fun to get into it, just to see what people think about it. But last but not least, it's really time to get to the meat and potatoes of this. Is the Fried Chicks review, and personally, I'm sorry I waited all this long to finally get to it, but watching her review, I was very impressed with her review. I thought she did a really good job. She made a lot of good points. I liked the fact that she was knowledgeable in not just the film, but she was knowledgeable in the book. She was knowledgeable in in the mini series and things like this. And I mean, it's like, yeah, it's clear. Some things are kind of clear, like why Kubrick did what he did, like changing the room number because of the whole situation with the hotel and everything else. And it's like, yeah, I kind of understand why we didn't get the hedge animals in this, because if it that's the thing, it's like, yeah, if they tried to do it back then, it would have just looked, it kind of would have looked, I think it would have looked goofy. It just would have looked like people being attacked by Muppets or something, like, because that's pretty much the way they would have done it. The way they had to do it is like puppets or animatronics or something like that. So it wouldn't look too convincing, honestly. I don't think it would have anyway, but honestly, I think she did a wonderful job, and I do think you should go and check out her video. I think she did a really good job talking about it, and I was really impressed that she knew quite a bit about the movie and the book. She knew quite a bit of the history, and yeah. So just overall, I think she did a wonderful job, and I think she did, and I really do think go back and check it out. She did a wonderful job, and she did a hell of a lot, but. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, The Shining. Definitely watch The Shining. It's wonderful, and definitely watch the Fright Chicks review for it. And that's pretty much all I can say. And like I said, go watch some of these YouTube videos. I mean, like I said, you're not gonna believe it. You're not gonna buy any of this stuff, but holy crap, it's entertaining. It's just fun to sit there and like see the things that people come up with. Like, wow, man, people can get really creative with just the ideas that they come up with regarding this movie. So, but like I said, I think if Kubrick was still alive today, he would be relishing this, because he'd be like, oh my god, I cannot believe like so many people are talking about my movie, so many people talk about it, so many people are watching it and everything else. People, like, my movie's not forgotten. This was a movie, you got to remember, this was a movie came out in 1980, did not do well when it first came out. That was the thing. Like, this movie, it came out like in the summer of 1980. It was pretty much, kind of kicked down by The Empire Strikes Back. And not just movie, but not just this one, but like Dress to Kill, De Palma's Dress to Kill, that came out. And, they said that, if you watch the documentaries on Friday the 13th, was finally the movie that came along and dethroned Empire Strikes Back for the number one spot at the box office. But that was the thing. Unfortunately, like, this movie didn't do it. Dress to Kill didn't do it. Other movies didn't do it. But eventually, though, this movie did find its audience, and it's become one of the biggest cinematic horror films of all time. And so, yeah, I can't say enough about this movie. I love it, and that's the thing. Sorry, Stephen King, you may hate it, but hey, if it wasn't for this movie, I don't know. I may have had a harder time getting into your books and your movie and stuff. Maybe not. I don't know, but it's kind of weird. It's like The Shining. Even though King hated The Shining, that's what got me into Stephen King. Clive Barker couldn't stand Rawhead Rex, but that's the movie that made me want to go read Clive Barker books. Everybody said, "Oh my God, Swamp Thing, is like such a turd," and Wes Craven, that was such a piece of garbage movie and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, after I watched Swamp Thing, I was like, this guy Wes Craven, I want to watch every movie he does. So it's weird how sometimes it's like the ones that are considered the worst are the ones that really pull you in and turn you into a fan. So anyway, that's it. I've been going on for way too long, but so that's it. So if anybody took the time to watch this, I thank you for doing it, and I honestly appreciate you for doing it. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, would you please leave it a like? And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the BodyBags channel. We have a different reviewer for each day. I'm the Saturday reviewer. I'm really honored to be working with a bunch of great guys, and where everybody's doing great stuff. And even going back to the old videos, like looking at the Fright Chicks videos and the ones that came before us, and seeing, I'm honored to be, in this lineage and be in this company with, these great reviewers. So So that's it. So everybody take care. Have a good night, and I'll see you later.